The Last of Us on HBO Max, another video game adaptation. Did they get this one right? We'll talk about it. Welcome back, Geek Variants. We are back from the holidays, and after a long hiatus on different shows and stuff that are coming out, we finally got some more content that we want to cover. And this starts off with The Last of Us, a video game adaptation from the Sony PlayStation game, The Last of Us, which released a couple years back, and they have recently re-released remake PS5 versions, and definitely a game worth playing. So if you want to enjoy the game in its entirety and what it's worth, by all means, go play the game, and you'll get how the original stacks up to the adaptation. But without further ado, we're going to get into the adaptation and talk about if it, worth its salt or not. So the game starts off pretty commonplace with a kind of an explanation of how the virus works, how this infection works. It's a parasite, it's an organism, something is going on, and you actually have two doctors that they're speaking on what's like a talk show or science, kind of a TED Talk type thing. And the main one is Dr. Newman, who is explaining how the cordyceps work. It's kind of like a zombie virus, so to speak, where this parasite takes over the host and then starts to, make the host do what it needs to do to keep the parasite alive. Essentially, taking all its free will and making it work for it. Now, this is seen common in ants, as they explain throughout the beginning of the little talk. And I've actually seen this. You can actually Google some of these videos. They're quite interesting. But it just sets up for the premise of what's going to happen. Then we're going to fast forward to 2003. That's the fast forward to where we have Joel and Ellie, more or less. Not Joel. I'm sorry. We have Joel and his daughter. And basically everything with his daughter is she's getting ready for his birthday, and everything's going on his birthday. So this is Sarah, and she is trying to get everything together. And again, I'm excited about how this show turned out so far, but they're trying to get everything together and really get going with setting up the story. So everything that you played in the game, everything that you see in the game, a lot of things match up. They took direct dialogue from the game and put it into the show and made sure that it felt the same scenes, felt the same way, kind of going through, where you're kind of wondering what's going to happen, what's going on. And of course, this is an adaptation, so things are going to change. And things are going to change as you go through, so don't expect it word for word. But the fact that they stay pretty true as far as the dialogue is concerned makes sense. Of course, as everything's going on, we get kind of a what's going on. There's kind of news. You see police cars and sirens. You see planes and stuff flying. She's trying to figure out how things are happening. And, you got people having little twitches and everything that kind of stacks up. So it's kind of a normal day, going to work, doing whatever, until that evening, as she gets done with school and she's getting ready to head home after the watch shop. Things start getting kind of crazy. And in the process of this, again, staying true to the game, she gets home, she sets up everything. Dad comes home, she gives him the watch. Again, a lot of the scenes and stuff are as well. Like, it's literally shot for shot in terms of the scenes, where it may not be the same exact order sitting on left side of the couch versus right side, but the scene itself is done in the same fashion as is done in the game. Her handing off the watch to him to, get it fixed. Again, slightly different. She looks to be a little bit older versus the, Sarah that we saw in the game. But throughout the course of it, you see the different signs, from the way that the house was set up to the way that the street signs and stuff are set up, how he's interacting with Tommy. Again, a lot of the dialogue is spot on. Throughout the course of the scene leading up to where you would see the creatures and stuff break in, it ends up being she's kind of going out and exploring, and she finds out something is wrong when she sees the dog Mercy. And that's when Joel and Tommy show up to get going and get everybody out of there. And that's a nice nod as how they did it, because she saw on the phone that Tommy had been calling us a bunch of missed calls, but instead they kind of changed it up where Tommy called Joel because he's in jail in this part of town, so he went to go get him. So clever ways that they kind of changed up, why he left the house or whatever reason he's leaving the house and stuff, and then for him to come back. In the process, they get in and they start, hauling ass out of there. And as they're doing this, as they're leaving, because you take the drive throughout the game, you see the specific road signs, the traffic, the soldiers set up. Like they did a really good job so far of just mimicking what you see throughout the course of it. The acting is pretty good. Like I do love Joel's character. Again, Pedro Pascal is doing great job with that kind of that gritty toughness and just being straightforward and direct. So I'm having fun with him. Tommy's pretty basic. If we go through the game, stuff like that, we'll see what happens with that as they go down the line. It's a little too early to kind of tell, but as far as Joel is concerned, so far this part, he's playing the part. I'm wrong. Sarah's doing a good job. So this is Nico Miller. Nico Parker is playing Sarah Miller, and throughout the course of this, she's doing a good job with playing the part, and they're getting through everything. You see the explosions. It was supposed to be a car crash. They kind of knocks them out, knocks them through the car, and they have to crawl out of it. But instead, it was a plane crash. Nice, CGI and all that stuff. Plane crash came down, parts came off, and knocked the truck over, and then got Tommy separated from Joel and Sarah. So through the course of that, she gets hurt. We get the Carrie scene, got to run through the building. Again, all this is fantastic till eventually we get the standoff. Now this is the climax. Again, there's spoilers in this. So if you don't know what's going to happen, then it says you go back, play the game, go back, watch the show, whatever. Make sure you watch this before, because again, this sets up the real, the pulling, of course, the pulling at the heartstrings and stuff with this. But we got that soldier who's under orders, again, to have, looks like no survivors. Again, we don't hear what's actually going on the radio, but no survivors should be left. So he takes his shots and he ends up killing Sarah in the process. Tommy manages to come back and kill the soldier. And again, that's that gut-wrenching scene, because she's just a kid. She's hurt, trying to figure out what's going on, and she gets killed on Joel's birthday of all things as well. So it's like, this is a very, very emotional scene when you're first playing the game. And all this happens within the first, I want to say 17 minutes of the game, if I remember correctly. Like, I was trying to replay everything, but I was, of course, playing through it faster this time. But again, they did a good job with the pacing as far as how the show was carrying, kind of leading up things. So it's like the first 10 minutes of the game roughly translates about the first 30 minutes of the show, because they got to add filler, and the show started off with about a 90-minute premiere. So as they're adding everything through, again, it's looking really good, because they're trying to match shot for shot with some of the scenes and stuff, and making sure that they have that in there that makes it show that it is a video game adaptation. We did look at the core content, and we wanted to make sure that we took the core content and we made sure we put some of that inside the show so that you feel connected. If you played the game, then you feel connected to it. Even if you haven't played the game and you're just watching it for the first time, it still makes for a good kind of dramatic pull going through the show, and you kind of want to know what's going on, what's happening. And everything that has been plugged in so far has been really good. But after the entire scene, of course, we get to fast forward, which is exactly how it is in the game, but 20 years later, because it starts off in Texas and they end up in Joel ends up in Boston, where he's there with Tess. And again, he's going through figuring stuff out, and they kind of do it a little differently as they're going through with the work camps and different things. We end up kind of skipping the part where Joel and Tess have to search for Robert, as far we get a little piece of it, the paying the ration cars to find out where he is and go get him. But, throughout the game, you're traversing through the game and you're learning the combat mechanics, more or less the tutorial. You're learning the combat mechanics. You're learning how to sneak, how to take out enemies, so on and so forth. All the world objects and how to interact with them. So it sets up really good. And we get down to the confrontation with Robert about the battery, because again, they're already trying to make their escape, because again, Joel wants to find Tommy and make sure that Tommy is safe. That's all he's got left as far as his brother is concerned, his family. So he wants to get that done. So as we get to the standoff where Robert is freaking killed. Tess actually kills Robert in the game because he done sold off his stuff. And we're going to find out, we see Marlene and stuff there. And with that, she was the one who spoke, who apparently killed him because of the betrayal. There's no battery, thing didn't work, whatever the case may be. So this is where you get the premise of the game. Here we have this girl named Ellie, who I think Bellaramsey is doing a fantastic job with the snarkiness of Ellie. Just, got the attitude, why am I here? Being a smart ass, count to 10 was hilarious, and just how she set it up. So it's really good. But this is where we get the setup of where she has to travel with Joel because they got to get her from point A to point B, and now they're too injured and wounded to do it, which again sets up just like the game. And even the color schemes are very similar to the game. Again, with what they're wearing for the first episode. Of course, that probably change as they go through, but again, they're staying true to the game. Everything sets up, and they get on the move. And even with the get back to the apartment to take a rest, and then the wake up and stuff, again, the dialogue is still matching up. They are really doing, their due diligence with this show, and they take it all the way to the part where they have to escape, and they get promised everything that they need to go get. So they start the escape, and as they start the escape, they end up being encountered by a soldier, the same soldier he met earlier, and you'll see what that part has to offer. But told him to stay off the streets, and now, hey, I got to check you. They have the scanners, they're checking. Okay, you're clean, you're clean. Freaking as he's starting to scan Ellie, she stabs him, just like in the game. That, and then next thing you know, they start scrapping. But Joel loses it and takes the guy out. He has that flashback, so he's got that rage and just starts beating the crap out of the soldier because again, it was that same kind of scenario of him trying to protect a little girl, his little girl, and everything just went sideways. So he had a lot of pent up aggression that he just let all that out on this guy. And after he finished, Tess sees the scanner, sees that she is infected. She's been bitten. Same thing is taking place. Like, hey, freaking, I've been bitten, but again, this is old. I'm not sick, so on and so forth. But they got no choice but to trust her right now because the clock is ticking and they got to get out of there if they get caught. And they start to head off into the quarantine zone and get out of there. And that's where the first episode ends. So again, pacing was done. They did a fantastic job just kind of setting everything up. Like, I'm really excited to see where they go with this and how they set up the rest of it. This was done by, so the creators, of course, Neildruckmann and Craig Mazin. They did a great job just kind of setting the tone for the game itself and stuff like that. And then everything that's done with the directors and how they set up the rest of the content going forward should be really, really good. Again, this is supposed to be 9 episodes long. So them stretching this game out and kind of filling in the gaps and stuff should be fairly easy for them with 9 episodes. If, they're at least an hour, I think it's because it's the first premiere, we got an hour and a half. So it's a good chance first premiere, we get an hour. Last episode, possibly we could get an hour and a half, depending on how they need to push it and how they set up the story to be paced throughout. But again, I'm actually really excited for this show. I like what they're doing. They started off strong. Now we just got to see if they can keep the pace throughout. Are we going to have any slowdowns? Are we going to have a bunch of filler content in between? Are we going to actually stay true throughout the game? So again, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be playing the game and stuff in sections. Now I see how their pacing went. So again, I'm a little bit ahead, but I'm going to play through the games to kind of pace and see exactly where they match up as far as everything goes and what other little things that they put in, which are going to be just like the game. Again, like I said, they did with the watch, the police sirens, the street signs showing which way, the traffic when they drove on the highway. Again, the game dialogue they're putting in, even when freaking, Ellie sees outside for the first time, she's like, holy shit, I'm outside. That's directly from the game. So again, they did their homework. So if you're excited to see the rest of the series, by all means, leave comments, tell me about it, tell me what you think. I want to know all your thoughts as far as this show is concerned. By all means, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, because we want to talk about this with you and see what else you think. And we're going to review every episode as it's going forward. And I'm sure Brent will be on here when he gets back because he's excited about this. He's out there touring Japan right now and having a blast. So by all means, stay tuned with us, and we will catch you guys in the next one.